Hi again, Mark here from TalkingBass.net. This week I'm going to be going over another popular bass riff, Ain't No Stopping Us Now by Mcfadden Whitehead. We'll play through it, take it apart, see what we can find. As always, visit TalkingBass.net for loads and loads more HD bass video lessons and all the lesson material that goes with them. The riff in tab format and standard notation and all the accompanying tracks for this lesson can be found in the links below. And if you're actually watching on TalkingBass.net, then just click on that big download button just below the video. So, Ain't No Stopping Us Now is basically made up of two riffs, and we're going to be going over the main verse riff, which is a great little riff containing a load of things to get your teeth into, and hopefully it'll help with giving you a bit more interest in your own bass lines. First, let's just go over the main riff. I'll just play it around and round a few times for those of you that like to learn it in that way. So with the drum track. So let's just get the notes under our fingers for now. So first of all, we've got the B flat here, first fret of the A string. Then we play that twice, okay? Then we move up to the A flat there, first fret of the G string, down to the F, third fret of the D string, and back to the A flat, okay, up on the first fret of the G string. So we have, and for the fingering, I'm using the first finger there on the for the B flat, then I'm using the first finger for the A flat, third finger for the F. The rhythm of this riff is made up of loads of 16th notes, and they're quite syncopated, so it can be fairly hard to get your head round at first if you've never tried them before. So let's analyse that first a little bit. So we've got two 8th notes on the B flat, one and, so that's pretty simple. But then the A flat, the F, the A flat, we've got 3 16ths there, and there's a 16th note rest at the beginning. So we have 1 and 2 E and A, 1 and 2 E and A. Okay, now I know that you're probably not going to be wanting to stand there going 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 and A, 4 E and A. So one thing you can do with this is, because that first bit's quite easy, 1 and, think of the 2 and then play the 3 notes. So 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, or even 2, 2, or yeah, anything that you want to do. Nod your head, tap your foot, anything to get that rest in there. So with the track, very slowly, we have this rhythm. Okay? So once we've played that little A flat, F, A flat section there, we have a little slide from the B flat there up to the C. Okay, from the 3rd fret of the G string up to the 5th fret of the G string, and I'm playing that with the 3rd finger there. And that C is on beat 3, so without the B flat in there, but we have the slide from the B flat. Now when we slide into something like this, lipping up into it, that's called a grace note. So the B flat there is a grace note, moving up into the C. Here are the C there is on the beat 3, okay? So with the track very slowly, we've got this. Now when we've moved up into that C, we then come down. So we have the A flat and then a B natural. So we've got the C, A flat first fret of the G string, and then playing that with the first finger, and then the B natural, which is a little bit of an odd note, but I'll come back to that shortly, second fret of the A string, so B natural there with the second finger. And if you have any problems with that rhythm, getting accuracy with it, especially when you're playing it to a drum beat, think of the grouping 3-3-2, okay, in terms of 16th notes, and that can sometimes help at a much slower tempo. As you build up speed, you won't really need to be thinking 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 like that, but you know, at a slower tempo it's easier. So I'll show you how that works. We have 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, 1 2 3 on C, 1 2 3 on A flat, 1 2 on the B natural. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, and then a little bit quicker. You know, eventually you won't need to be speaking it at all, but you will still keep that 16th note pulse going in your head. Try to always keep that ticka 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 going on there in the background. Okay. So with the drum beat, we can hear it. One, two, three, 1 2 3 1 2, and 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, and now without the speaking or counting. And again. It might seem a little bit over the top, you know, getting into the counting in this way, you know, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, and the 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a. But what can happen with these kind of lines, they're really useful for gaining that rhythmic accuracy, and subdividing in this way is a really good practice exercise. So instead of just trying to feel it, because I hear this quite a lot, you show somebody a riff or something like that, and people will listen to it and they'll get it by ear. But sometimes the rhythms aren't that accurate, and that comes from not subdividing correctly. And this is another reason why you know, learning to read music, things like that, can be really helpful to people, because when you learn to read music, for instance, you have to subdivide. You're always looking at things from this kind of metronomic quantization side, you know, as you're looking through dun, 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 dun. As you're doing that, you need to know where the beat is. You need a point of reference, and you have to be thinking of subdivisions, even if it's on the little rhythmic cells like dun 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 dun. You know, as you're reading through things like that, it's imperative that you know what all those little rhythmic cells are. So that only comes from being able to subdivide like this. So if you're ever having problems getting rhythmic accuracy, or if you play something and you've learned it by ear and you're thinking it just doesn't sound right, there's something missing, you know, rhythmically, or the feel of it, make sure to go over it and, you know, subdivide. Start thinking of 16th notes or 8th notes if it's, you know, if it's subdivided by 8th notes. But these kind of things, definite with 16th note rhythms, really subdivide and listen to them, like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. You know, it's a very definite 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. You know, subdivision. After we've played that B natural there, second fret of the A string, we go to the C, because the chord has changed to C minor 7 in the background. So we hit the C, and then go down to B flat, and then back to the C. So we have C, third fret of the A string, B flat, first fret of the A string, C, third fret of the A string. So now you can also play this as a ghost note, the B flat there. There's quite a few different ways that this is played on the original. Sometimes it's even missed out. So okay, and it changes throughout the song. So try it whichever way you want. We'll stick with the B flat for now. So we have C, A flat, B natural, then C, B flat, C, all together. Okay, so I'm playing that third finger, first finger, third finger. So second finger for the B natural before it, third finger, first finger, third finger. Next, we're going to be moving up into the F minor 7 chord, so we move up to the E there, another odd note that I'll talk about later. So that's 2nd fret of the D string, and then into the F, 3rd fret of the D string. So we have. Okay, so a very simple rhythm there. E, F. Now, I know I'm going quite slowly through this riff, but it is quite an important lesson in learning more tricky riffs. I mean, this might not be that tricky for you, but let's say that there's a bass line or a riff that you're finding quite hard. Instead of just trying to learn the whole thing in one go and then just trying to play it, and even playing it slowly and then working up to speed, learn it note by note, build it up. You know, build it up from a solid foundation. So work a note at a time, as we have been. You know, that's quite easy at the beginning, the B flat. You know, work through slowly through the riff. Work at a slow speed, and then eventually, once you've got the whole thing working quite well, then increase speed, work to a backing track, whatever. But, you know, just work slowly through the riff. So lastly, at the end of the riff, we've got this little run. So after we've just played the E, F, we have E flat, 1st fret on the D string, and that's not a part of the run, that just leads into it. Then we have F, E flat, C, B natural, and then we're back down to the B flat to start, okay? So E flat, then F, E, C, B natural. Okay, so all together. Okay, so that's the first 2 bars of the riff, and the second 2 bars of the riff, bars 3 and 4, are exactly the same, apart from at the end of the riff, instead of that fill, you know, the line leading into the B flat, we just have this C up here, 5th fret of the G string, sliding down. So, okay, so it's like a pow effect. So. So it comes after the E, F. Pow! Finger picking wise, I'm not just going to go through every single note, you know, matching every note up to every finger. But suffice to say, there are a couple of little tips that I can give you. At the beginning of the riff, you've got the B flat, then you've got that A flat. Now, on the A flat, it's worth playing that with the 2nd finger of the picking hand. That makes it a lot easier to come back down to the F and back. So, you know, the B flat you could play as twice with the 1st finger, or 2nd finger, 1st finger, 1st finger, 2nd finger, any way that you want, but because there's a little gap after that. But you definitely want to be on the 2nd finger for the A flat. Also, when you get to the E flat for the okay, for that little line there at the end, on the E flat, it's worth being on the 2nd finger again for that. Makes it a little bit easier for the run coming down. So that's the whole riff. So now let's start building up speed. So we've got it under our fingers, technique's fine, you know, rhythmically it's accurate. So we'll first of all start at 70 beats per minute. The original is at about 114 beats per minute. So we're starting at a very slow tempo, but we want to make sure that we're accurate, okay? So. So play it through at that tempo, keep it grooving, keep going, and always be aware of your rhythmic accuracy. So you want to be aware of the rhythm. You want to make sure that when you hit on the one, that you're really hitting on the one, okay, in the words of Bootsy Collins, and you know, just make sure that everything's working right. You know, technically, you don't want to be scuffing things. Don't build up speed until you're, you know, accurate, both timing wise and physically, okay? So now let's work at 80 beats per minute, and all these tracks are available over at TalkingBass.net. Now let's move up to 90 beats per minute. Now 100 beats per minute. And finally 114 beats per minute, so this is full speed. So let's have a little breakdown of the notes in that riff. So first of all, we've got the B flat, which is obviously the root note of the B flat minor 7 chord. And then we've got the A flat up here, which is the flat 7 or minor 7. And that's a characteristic chord tone in that B flat minor 7 chord. And as I said in the Memphis Soul Stew riff breakdown, that flat 7's got a lot of strength. It's in a lot of driving pop and rock riffs. You know, it's got a lot of strength there, a lot of fundamental core. You know, if a riff's got that flat 7 in it, it's got good abs, you know. Now, the A flat is followed by the F, which is the 5th, so of the B flat minor 7. So again, we're simply using chord tones, you know, just the notes of the chord. Now, a lot of songs might run back up to the root after a line like that. You know, up to that root note. But Ain't No Stopping Us Now tries something a little different and moves up to the C, which is the 9th or 2nd degree, which can also be seen as an extension of the chord or a colour tone. So when we play extensions like the 9th, 11th or 13th, which are also the 2nd, the 4th and the 6th, we can see them as adding spice to the line. And you have to be careful how you use them, but they have a certain flavour. So to hear how they sound, I'll just play the B flat minor 7 there. Now if I was to tap out a B flat, the root note at the top, okay, just normal, but there's that C, the 9th. Okay, so you can hear how it's got that flavour to it. So this riff instantly has a little quirky twist and a hook that we can identify it by, you know, putting in that C there, and that slide kind of accentuates it a little. But then we move back down to the A flat. Okay, so we're back on the flat 7, which is, you know, back in normal chord tone territory. So it's been centered again, rather than being, you know, flying out in no man's land there up on the C. So, and next we come down to the B natural, which is the odd note that I mentioned earlier on. So now, if I was to just hold on that B natural, it would sound really weird. So, you know, with the B flat minor 7 there, you can hear how it's really dissonant. But the reason that it doesn't sound weird in this context is because we're moving into the next note being a C, which is the root of the next chord, C minor 7. So we've had, there's the B flat minor 7, then C minor 7, F minor 7, C minor 7, F minor 7. And we're into the C minor 7 there. This B natural is what's called a chromatic approach note. It moves into that C there. Now, on the face of it, you might be thinking, chromatic approach tone. Oh dear, this is getting really complicated, but it's not. It's a very simple concept, incredibly simple concept actually, but it just sounds complicated because of the name. Now, all we're doing is moving into a chord tone from either a half step below or a half step above. That's it. It's actually simpler than diatonic approach notes, where you have to know the notes of the chord. With this, we don't. We just play either a half step below or a half step above. So in this case, C, that's the chord tone that we're aiming for. We've got a half step below, which is the B natural. Now, it works really well because it doesn't hang around for very long. Like I say, if you were to hold on to the B natural, it would sound really odd. Even if you resolved it eventually, it would stand out quite a lot, but they often go by quite quick. So B natural into the C. Now, chromatic approach notes are used quite a lot in both bass lines and soloing, and it gives it a kind of jazzy sound, a little bit of a different flavour. And whichever kind of note you want to use, whether you want to use diatonic ones, i.e. in key, or chromatic ones like this, just depends what flavour you're going for. And jazz improvisers use chromatic approach notes quite a lot, when they're working around arpeggios. So here I'm going to give you a very quick example of how to use these approach notes, chromatic and diatonic. So we'll take a very basic chord progression of C major 7, A minor 7, D minor 7 and G7. So that's a 1, 6, 2, 5 in C, and you'll have seen this chord progression. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll have seen me use this a lot. So we're going to use the notes of the arpeggio for the bass line. So basically it'll sound like this. Okay, so we've got C, A, D, G are the root notes, and then I'm just using the notes of the arpeggio. C major, A minor, D minor, and G major, or G7, okay? So to lead into each one of those notes, to create more of a weaving line rather than these static arpeggios, we can use approach notes. So first of all, diatonic ones. If I was to play the C major, to play an approach note to the A minor 7, I'd just use a scale tone or chord tone above or below the A, okay? So we can either have the G to the A or the B to the A, okay? And each time it's been either the 7th there, the flat 7 of the A minor 7, or we're using that 2nd there, the B. Either way, the diatonic to the key, which is C major, okay? So that was from below, or that's from above. And then we do the same thing for the D minor 7. So a tone above or below. So C to the D minor 7 or E to the D minor 7. Then we'll do the same thing for the G. So F to the G or A to the G. So I'll just work through the whole thing. Okay, and from above. Okay, so that's very simple, the diatonic approach notes. Now to play a chromatic approach note, we just ignore all of that. We just ignore the scales and the arpeggios. We just use half step from below or above. So first of all, let's just try from below. So C major, then I just use the G sharp or the A flat. So it's the fret below. I mean, ignore even this talk about half steps and everything. It's just a fret below. So fret below the A, into the A. Then when we get to the D minor 7, we've got the C sharp there, the fret below or half step below the D. And then when we get to the G, we use the F sharp. Okay, so on their own, they sound very dissonant. Okay, it can sound quite evil, but when we actually move, you know, when we're passing through them and we're not labouring on them at all. If I play them from above. Okay, so it just gives it that little jazzy spice to it, a little bit more quirky. So now if we come back to the Ain't No Stopping Us Now riff, we can see that that B natural is just a chromatic approach note, just as we were just using in the chord progression to the C. We had B flat minor 7 to C minor 7. That's all over B flat minor 7, and then we've got C minor 7 coming up, so B natural to C. So what kind of seemed like a little bit of an odd note, now we just see as a chromatic approach note. Now, once we've just played that C there, we're back down to the B flat. So we've come out of the chromatic side of things and we're just back into chord tone territory again. So we've got the flat 7 of the C. So now all the notes that we're going to look at here are going to be relative to C minor 7. Before, when we were looking at the notes before, they were all relative to the B minor 7. So we don't really look at them relative to the B flat Dorian or B flat minor or whatever. Always look at the notes of a riff relative to the chord, because those chord tones that are playing in the background, you know, behind you or in front of you, depending on how you want to look at it, are going to be the things that you're going to rub up against. You know, if you're in the key of C major, you know, you could be playing C, E, G, B, would be fine and completely consonant and sound great over the C major 7. But then if the chord changes to, you know, a D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, it will have a completely different sound. So we always look at the notes of a bass line or riff relative to the chords. So after we've just played that C, B flat C there, you know, we've been on the C minor 7, we move quickly up to the F minor 7. It doesn't stay very long on the C minor 7. We have, okay, so we're going to lead up to the F using the E, and what do you know? It's another chromatic approach note, just as we used for the C. So we've got E to the F. If we were using a scale tone from below or a chord tone from below, the 7th of the F, we'd be using the E flat. That would be the diatonic approach, but we're not. We're using the major 7th there to lead into it, the leading tone. So chromatic approach note to the F, okay? So lastly, after we've hit the F, we've just got this run down back to the B flat. So we've got the E flat there, so that's the 7th of the chord, then up to the F, that's the root of the chord. This is all F minor 7, remember, then just running down it. So we've got F, E flat, C, all chord tones. So root, flat 7, 5th, then chromatic approach note, the B there, B natural, down to the B flat. So this time it's a chromatic approach from above. So you can actually see these chromatic approach notes as just filling the gaps when you've got a line like this. Okay? That would be just using the chord tones, F, E flat, C, but we're filling in that gap there between the C and the B flat. And it even feels like you're just filling in the gaps, like a dot to dot, you know. And we're back to the start. So on the second time through, instead of the run, we've got that C there with that pow effect I was talking about. Pow, you know. So that is just a diatonic approach note. So instead of the B natural down to it, we've got the C, but we're playing it up at the octave there to give it more of that effect. If I was to take it down the octave, down to that C, we'd have this. Okay, and without the slide there. Okay, so just a diatonic approach note to the back to the B flat. So that's Ain't No Stopping Us Now. It's a great example of how we can use chord tones to weave a line through a basic chord progression, and of how chromatic approach notes can be used effectively in creating melodic interest. Now when you see this riff in isolation and you have no reference back to the chords that are working behind it, like the B flat minor 7, C minor 7, F minor 7, you might just see it as this isolated riff in B flat minor. But when you analyse the notes of the riff and then you relate them back to the chords, you suddenly see how the riff's actually created with, direction and as a result of the actual chord progression itself. Much the same way as when we weave a walking bass line through a chord sequence, but obviously with a much funkier rhythm. So check out TalkingBass.net for more of these lessons on just about every aspect of bass playing. Subscribe and like this video if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe to TalkingBass.net to receive your free scale reference guide full of just about every scale that you're ever going to need. I also give Skype bass lessons, so if you're interested in a more personalised tuition experience, just drop me an email and I can book you some lessons in. Okay? See you later!